I would like to know the genesis of the foot-long hot dog jar, and the caustic soda question was a good one. And I think we can skip the top 3 brands. I think they're going to be Matchbox, Matchbox, and Matchbox.
Well, you ask him. I don't know if you ask him what's his why Matchbox, not Hot Wheels, and just see.
Yeah, I think that's a good question. Like, why has he chosen to stick only with Matchbox?
Yeah, it's just for him. It's not everybody different.
Yeah, sure. Okay, well, hopefully we can get it back on.
There he is. Welcome.
There he is.
You're watching Diecast Breakdown with Chuck Ellis, David Johns, and Mark McHotwheel. So sit back, strap in, and hang on. The breakdown starts now.
Well, hey there, folks. Chuck here, and we are so excited to bring you another episode of Diecast Breakdown. I am joined, as always, by my co-hosts, Mr. David Johns.
Good evening.
And Mr. Mark McHotwheel.
Hello.
And we are so excited for the customizers and the restorers in the group. We are joined by none other than Rob, a.k.a. Matchbox Garage. And we're going to be talking about all sorts of stuff, how he got started in the world of restorations, why he chose Matchbox, and why he says garage instead of garage. So be sure to stick around for that. But first, David, tell me what's exciting you in the world of Diecast this week.
Thank you, Chuck. As always, we got some good stuff. Let's start with some vehicles from the UK in honor of our special guest, Matchbox Garage, Rob himself. We have got from a company called GFCC, we have got a Rolls-Royce Corniche 4 that comes with a removable top. You'll see on these pictures here, it is a really well done Rolls-Royce. A lot of you guys will like that. And we're going to stay on that theme. A company called SC Model is giving us a Bentley Mulsanne, don't know how to say that, Speed Sport Edition. There's only going to be 500 of each color of these guys, so you'll want to scoop one up if you like them. Last thing I've got for you guys is Hobby Japan, and we know that they do amazing diecast. Hobby Japan has a Toyota Alphard, and this is Matchbox Man's favorite vehicle. He gives us a lot of these picks, guys. He pointed this one out to me. This is a minivan over in Japan. I believe it's only sold there. Toyota Alphard. Take a look at that pic. You can see a really nice glossy black finish on that. That's what I'm kind of digging coming out in the future. I'm going to turn it over to my man Mark to see what he's got for us.
Well, it's stopping stuff. So we got Ado House Mini GT releases coming out in the future. They are just coming out. I can't keep up with them, and I love it. So they've got a new 240. They got a ZG wide body Z that looks amazing. And you know me, I love 510s. I love 510s. It's my favorite car. Yeah, believe it or not, Ripley's believe it or not. But the ZG 240, the Fair Lady, is a beautiful car. It kind of reminds me of a Porsche. It has the sharp front end, and then he's got the wide fender flares on there. Hood opens on that one. So I'm very excited about that. Can't even keep up with these. And then they've got the chase cars. I don't own any of those, but I'll break my neck trying to get those. So we'll see what happens in the future. And then we have a R34 GTR that is coming out as well. And that looks also amazing. Wide body. And that's one of my dream cars. So I can't wait to get my hands on that. And then there's a new version of the 510 Street. So got to have that too. And there's going to be probably new color variations. I'm hoping for a pink one. Got kind of a Spectre Flame pink or something like that. I don't know what it is about pink and 510s, but I love them.
Yeah.
So that's all I know. But that's all I need to know right now about what's coming out in Diecast. Personally.
Yeah, I am excited about the Cato House BRE 510 wagon that they got coming out. So
oh, yeah.
One looks really cool. And I thought I bought one when I was out in Phoenix, and turned out I didn't. I bought another vehicle instead, but there was so much stuff at Cubbyhole collectibles that I was just like, that was about as close to diecast sensory overload as you can get. But that's kind of where I'm going to start things with me this week, is I was just out in Phoenix and got to visit Cubbyhole Collectibles and got to talk to Matt and Thomas, who run the store. They've run it for about 3 years now. And I'm going to give them a shout out during this because they have basically taken the store and turned it completely around, really improved the sales experience. They are super good dudes. They are very reasonable with their pricing. I was shocked at how reasonable the prices were. They also do consignments. So I got to buy some stuff from Jeff, the toy pimp, who we know from Instagram. And we'll be talking about that a bit more in our B block, but really great. If you're out in the Phoenix area, it is definitely worth the visit. Yeah. And Mark has been there as well. So I got that one off the list. Then Diecast Extreme is the next one on my list to get crossed off. And then I think we're all going to do a group trip over to Tom's in Europe and just mortgage our houses.
That's right.
But I will, in Diecast news, start off as I often do with my friends over at Greenlight, who have got a 1982 Dodge Ram D150 Prospector Edition coming out. Very excited about this. This is what is known in Mopar circles as the first gen Ram. It followed the tin grill era, which is what I have, which ran from 1972 to 1980. And then in 1981, they switched to calling them the Dodge Ram trucks as opposed to just the Dodge D100s. And then they all went to like 150s and 250s as far as their names convention went. So that's your bit of Mopar history, but we haven't really gotten much in the first gen Rams in 1/64 scale. So it's exciting to have that coming along. We've also got the 1974 Ford Gran Torino Brougham from Charlie's Angels in the Hollywood series that they've got coming out. It's got the brown on brown vinyl top. Love that. Very excited about that as the Malaise guy of the group. Also, let's see, if you're a Speed Racer fan, there is going to be a Johnny Lightning 1/64 scale Shooting Star Speed Racer with race worn graphics on the side. It's going to have some scrapes and scratches on it, which I think is pretty cool. Not really a Speed Racer fan, but I am a fan of weathering and I am a fan of unexpected weathering. And that is definitely right up my alley. But those are the things that are exciting me in the world of Diecast this week. And thank you for sharing yours. So what's exciting you in the world of Diecast? Fair listener / viewer, let us know in the comments below. And while you're doing that, we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, Mark McHotwheel himself is going to tell us how to become an Instagram superstar. So stick around.
We'll be back with more Diecast Breakdown after this word from our sponsors. The Diecast Day of Giving continues. Join us in gathering as many unopened Diecast toy vehicles as you can. Give one, give 100, whatever you can. Find a local charity that serves kids in need, shelters, food banks, hospitals, even emergency services. Then post what you're giving on your favorite social media using hashtag DDOG to spread the word. Don't forget to report your pledge at Hot Wheels for Hope.org. That's Hot Wheels, the number 4, Hope.org. Help us reach 10,000 cars for kids in need all over the world. Here's this week's small channel shoutout.
Diecast Sheriff.
If you have a favorite Diecast channel with less than 700 subscribers and you'd like to see them highlighted on a future episode, email us at diecastbreakdown@gmail.com.
Hello, this is Diecast Dude from the Netherlands, and you are watching Diecast Breakdown.
And now back to Diecast Breakdown.
All right, well, we are back and we are talking Instagram, both followers and creators, what to do over on that fair social media platform. And Mark, you're the most active of us on the old Insta, so we're going to start with you and talk about your experience.
Well, I think I've got like 5 or 6 Instagram,
Okay.
and I've had them for a long time. I have one page that's not diecast related, it's car related, but I've had that for probably 8 years or so. I pretty much almost since Instagram came out. It's definitely grown a lot. So I looked at some of my older stuff and I've got 1 or 2 likes on things that I posted a long time ago. And then now the norm is even for people that post a 50, 100, couple hundred likes, it's definitely changed a lot. So it's a pretty easy platform. Some people don't like to go. I've had conversations with people, they don't want to go from Instagram to YouTube because it just looks threatening. And then people don't want to go from YouTube to Instagram. So there's this divide, but realistically, my wife and I, Kimber, we send each other memes and videos all day long. So there's that. If anything, if you like to watch funny videos, Instagram's a good place to go. But for Diecast, it's a place that I don't post a ton of stuff, but it's nice to post your customs. If you're a customizer, that's a great place to be. If you're customizing cars, you can make short videos. You can do before and after photos. It doesn't take a lot of effort to do that. So from a YouTube standpoint, when you're doing that or like doing a show like we do, there's a lot of time and effort that goes into it. With Instagram, it's really not that hard. And you can go on live as well and talk to people. And it's very easy to bring somebody else on live and to have a conversation back and forth. Very easy. And then another reason why I like Instagram is the charity aspect, where I can just do a fundraiser. I can post a picture of a car that I'm going to give away, and I can choose a charity like St. Jude or Seattle Children's, and people can donate directly to that cause for that fundraiser for that car. So we did that for Ukraine, wounded soldiers, and then we've done St. Jude, we've done Seattle Children's and all that. So it's very easy. I like to do it that way too, because the money never touches my hands. There's a lot of people that are doing some shady things out there. So for that, it makes it very easy for me to give money right to the source. So there's a lot of cool things on Instagram. You can post your daily finds, your hunting videos, short clips. You can do reels, which are basically kind of like, to me, kind of like a TikTok thing, where you can just shoot a very short reel about the super treasure hunt you just cracked. And that video could blow up very quickly. You could get a couple thousand views and a lot of subscribers or followers on Instagram from that. So that's kind of what I've picked up. And it's been a really fun place to be. It's not always the most positive place, depending on where you go on there, but if you choose to be as positive as you want to be and then stay away from people that aren't being positive. So that's what my page is like, just like my YouTube channel. But it's a really good place to be. I highly encourage everyone to create an account, check it out. If it's not your cup of tea, then no big deal. But it's a really good place to share photos, short videos, and even do some live streams and get some people on there to get your feet wet. If you're looking to get into doing YouTube stuff, it's a good place to get your feet wet and post some short videos, talk to people, meet people, and move over to YouTube. Vice versa. You should be able to move between both of those. So that's what I have on Instagram. Good place to be.
It's a great way to, in the middle of the day, because I don't have, unfortunately, the time that I used to have to watch a lot of videos, I can follow a lot of my YouTube friends and creators on there as well and get shorter versions, whether it's shorter videos or just photos of their customs, and follow along with them in that way and just, have a little bit of an escape. There's one of the cool things that I like about Instagram is you can follow hashtags as well as followers. So you can follow things like Custom Diecast or Diecast Customs or My Custom Hot Wheels is a great account to follow, and you can follow their hashtag as well because they use that hashtag as a way to get user-generated content, which is a fancy way of saying other people's photos for their posts and stuff. And there's a lot of the folks that you've seen on this show have really great Instagram accounts, like Mike Zarnock. You can follow him over at Mike Zarnock. It's pretty easy to remember. And your manufacturers also post a lot of stuff up there. Shuko has a really good one. Greenlight posts a lot of stuff. So there's a lot of really cool opportunities to even get comments directly to your favorite diecast brands as well. So some of the other folks that I really enjoy following, there is Jimmy Wilson Photography is a really great one to follow. He takes a lot of really great diecast photos. Mike Gordon at Mike_Gordon27. He does a lot of really cool like live streams and stuff on Instagram. So does Cole over at Kuda's Diecast Customs. They do a lot of really fun live streams. A former guest on the show, Chris Westlake 164s, is a really great account. He takes a lot of really cool turntable videos of his customs, so you can really take in the amount of detail that he puts in his stuff, which is insane. Another one that I highly recommend, and I really want to have him on the show, we're working with this because there's a little bit of a language barrier, but he is interested, is Roby _Customs 83. And he does these insane builds, and he actually just did a whole series of 510s. Mark, I don't know if you follow him or not, but what he does is he makes
I have been for quite some time.
Yeah. He's the guy that you've probably seen his work shared around, but he makes his cars look like they're illustrations. And they're these wild 3D illustrations. Yeah, really cool guy, really talented, doing something completely different from everyone else. Speed Shop also has a really great Instagram channel. Jay's Diecast Creations has a great Instagram account. He's doing really well over there, and he posts a lot of great stuff. So just a ton of really great folks out there to find, follow. Of course, folks like Night Stalker Customs and Backyard Racing TV, which is just kind of blown up out of nowhere. We would love to have them on the show as well, because that's just like this mystery channel that just kind of creates these insane, wonderful backyard Hot Wheels tracks that boggle the mind. And they just kind of blew up. So a lot of great Instagram accounts to follow out there. What are some of your favorites? Let us know in the comments below. And while you're doing that, we're going to throw a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to be talking to Rob over at Matchbox Garage about his magical shed and all of the insane builds and restorations he's done, including one that almost ended before it could begin. So stick around.
Don't touch that dial. Diecast Breakdown will be right back after these messages. The Diecast Day of Giving continues. Join us in gathering as many unopened Diecast toy vehicles as you can. Give one, give 100, whatever you can. Find a local charity that serves kids in need, shelters, food banks, hospitals, even emergency services. Then post what you're giving on your favorite social media using hashtag DDOG to spread the word. Don't forget to report your pledge at HotWheelsForHope.org. That's Hot Wheels, the number 4, Hope.org. Help us reach 10,000 cars for kids in need all over the world.
Alright guys, this is Mad Vision here. You guys are watching Diecast Breakdown.
And now, the thrilling conclusion of this week's episode of Diecast Breakdown.
We are really excited today. We are sitting down with Rob of Matchbox Garage. He is one of my favorite customizers. He has been doing this for a while. He is certainly one of the inspirations for me when I got into this hobby, and really excited to share some stories with him today. So Rob, thank you so much for coming on the show with us.
Yeah. Well, thanks for inviting me. It's been, to be honest, a little while since I've actually done anything, but I'm hopefully going to use today really as the kind of kick up the bum to get back into it as well. But yeah, obviously you can see a shot. Just moving a few things around actually is kind of getting me thinking, right, what can I do next? What do I need to do? So, thanks.
Absolutely. Yeah, I completely understand. I'm kicking myself out of a dry spell of customizing myself. And stuff like this is one of the reasons why I started the show, was to get myself back into creating again, because creating a custom build video or a restoration video is hard. It takes time. There's hours of work that goes into it, and there's hours of editing that goes on top of it. And so, yeah, I'm very excited to have you on. I wanted to get things started. For those who don't know, tell us a little bit about how you got started in restorations specifically for Matchbox, because your channel originally wasn't about Matchbox restoration.
No, actually, if you was to look at some real historical videos on this channel, you'll see videos dating back to around almost the start of YouTube. I think my actual channel was around 2006/2007. And I think, if I remember rightly, YouTube started in 2005. And I started off the channel as a, I guess, car channel. So I loved cars, just full size cars, and I would restore those and kind of do videos on how to change your oil, how to change your air filter, how to change parts. So it wasn't until years later, probably 10 years later, that I actually then found a love with diecast restoration. And like others, there were a few channels that I remember, like Bare Metal Hot Wheels, and was probably like the OG of the restoration. I remember watching his videos and thinking, I could never do that. There's too much involved. There's so much equipment that's required, and it's too difficult for me. I've got quite like big hands, so these little cars I never thought would be for me. So, but after watching obviously videos after videos, and then just, I guess one day just thinking, well, I need to make a bit of a change. This is not, or has never been my only YouTube channel. I've had probably 10 other channels, and but this was the one that I've been working on for the last few years, and obviously I kind of pushed all the other channels aside whilst concentrate on this one. Every, I guess, spare minute that I have after I still work full time, I still have a family with children and a house to run. And so when they all went to bed, that's when I could come down and really work on my little restoration, because I wanted a YouTube channel.
I understand that. Like I kind of came to it as just like a creative outlet for me. And I had been out of collecting diecasts for a long time and kind of stumbled across, like you, I stumbled across Bare Metal HW and kind of saw the restoration crowd. And then I found your videos, and then I found like Jakarta Diecast, and I found Danny's Diecast Disasters, which he does like weathering stuff like I do. So that got me really excited about those kind of things, and Marty's Matchbox makeovers. And it's just kind of really cool way to share the hobby. But were you a Matchbox collector before, or was this like something that happened as a childhood thing and came back later? How did you get into creating videos about Matchbox?
So if I guess taking it back quite far to when I was a child, I remember my dad was massively into cars, the same as myself, full size cars. And of course, as kids, him growing up in the 60s, he had his die-cast cars. And so at my grandparents' house, those toy cars were still around. So as a kid, I was able to then play with my dad's toys from when he was my own age. And one of the cars that I guess is really burned into to my memory is the Corgi Batmobile. So that's probably the casting that really set it off for me. And obviously I've had different toy cars, die cars, nothing of real true interest, other than just as a young boy, kind of putting up my interest in cars in general. And I wanted to keep them in pristine condition. As an 8, 9, 10-year-old boy, I kept my toy cars in their boxes. But I didn't have any Matchbox. I didn't have any Hot Wheels. I don't even know what brand they were. They were probably cheap die cast. They were slightly larger in scale, maybe one kind of, I'm trying to think what kind of size they would be. They were like 1/32 kind of scale, and they were like pullbacks. And my parents would kind of get one of these free cars from the local petrol garage or gas station to you guys, and they would fill up their fuel tank. And if you spend over, I think something like £20, you got a free die-cast car. So of course, every time they did that, they come home, they would bring it to me, and I would have in my bedroom my shelf, and it would have some things that I really enjoyed, and certainly my die cards were there. And actually I still have, or I say have, or recently had these cars. My children play with die cards in a different way than what I did. They're more of the way perhaps they should have been played with, and smashing them and ripping the box open and smashing them. And I haven't got a problem with that's what they're there for. And I may have kept them in a box for 30 years and they've ripped them out of the box in 30 seconds, but that's just the way it goes. So as well, kind of at my grandfather's house, I remember seeing he had his own little die-cast collection. They were probably I'm trying to think what kind of brand they may have been. I wasn't allowed to touch them, actually. They were behind a glass door in a cabinet, a showcase, and they were there throughout my kind of a childhood until his passing. I don't actually know where those cars went, but that was certainly another thing that kind of is a burning in the memory from a child. And I think ultimately that's what we all do in this kind of somewhat, is to reminisce from our childhood and kind of remember things that we used to play with, and perhaps die-cast castings that we couldn't get our hands on as children, we can now as adults. But yeah, I'm sure like most boys, I mean, my own children, the way that we have it is that if a Matchbox car come in, it's mine. If it's Hot Wheels, it's there. And that's whenever we go to the shop. Rarely do we go into a shop, and if there's Matchbox cars, they're so cheap, right? They're so easily and readily available that to come away from the shop without buying one is almost impossible.
Amen. I understand. I was at a CVS, which is a pharmacy shop here, like a little drugstore, convenience store thing. And I left with a Matchbox Citroen DS from the Worldwide collection, because I was like, oh, that's cool. So I've got that rattling around in my pocket right now while I'm at this conference.
You've been on my radar for a long time to get you on this show because, and I didn't tell Chuck and Mark this, you nearly single-handedly brought me back to this hobby. When I was messing around on YouTube and looking for videos, because of the size of your channel, you kept popping up in my feed. And man, I just like the style, the way you present them. I like that they're not an hour long. You can crank one out 10, 15 minutes. So first off, thank you for making all those videos so many years ago. And as I hear you talk about taking a break, I just kind of want to tell the viewers and the listeners maybe the stresses of doing such frequent custom jobs and keeping that schedule. But then also, let's talk about the benefits of a hobby where you get to relax and spend that time in your shop by yourself. What have you enjoyed about this hobby?
Yeah, so for me, like I say, it started off with, like I say, seeing these other channels and thinking, maybe I'll give it a try. And it went from, if you cast back to my very first video, and it's actually this casting right here, which is a Matchbox Series number 46 Mercedes 300 SE. And looking, and I can still remember that video like it was yesterday, and I'm trying to think how long ago it was now, maybe 3 years, 4 years ago. And I was shaking in that video, trying to do this car because this was not only the first casting that I restored for YouTube, this was the first casting that I restored. That was it. This was the first casting I ever done. Yeah. So I didn't have, like some people, perhaps years of practice, finding all the problems, but also finding all the kind of the tips and the tricks and the here and what. But I just went straight out day one thinking, this is what I'm going to do. And this is how I'm going to do it. And I obviously found my own way. And I do remember, so obviously you got like Bare Metal. He'd been doing it for years, even before I started. And there were a few new channels around at the time that had only just come out in the last couple of months. And it was Marty's Matchbox Makeovers, and it was Danny's Diecast Disasters, who I still speak to almost every day. I call him like as a friend. I don't only just speak to him about diecast, we speak to him about family and friends and our lives, which is, bearing in mind he lives on the other side of the world to me, but that's nice. And also Lee, Time Rider. So these guys that I had kind of, and I asked questions and said, what do you use to do this? And how do I do that? And just made my own way. And yeah, and that's the thing as well, though, is also finding my own way, because I would watch some channels, and still today, some of them would be kind of live voicing. So whilst they're going along, they're like Austin does, he will kind of narrate the video as he goes along in kind of true time, whereas some others would have no voiceover. And yet for me, I would always from the start create the video and then do the voiceover, usually in one take right at the end, and then kind of almost relive the video as I'm narrating it. And it was, for me, I spent probably in total, depending on the restoration, of course, some are a lot more involved than others, but on average, they would take me 2 days. Day one would be ultimately choosing the casting. And, what I found, because I have had over 2,000 castings, when you've got 10 to choose from, it's quite easy to choose which one you're going to do next. But when you've got 2,000, sometimes I've spent an hour just to figure out which car I want to do next, because you can have too much choice. But really, for me, the plan or the idea was to find something that in the thumbnail would obviously be the worst looking casting, right? I didn't want to restore something that's already clean. I want something where the wheel's falling off, the windscreen is smashed, the roof is caved in, and those ones ultimately got the bigger views. And I'm not going to kid myself to say I only done it just to relax and to take myself away from life, which it did do that for me. But I was certainly at the beginning I almost see, because like reminding again that I've had about 10 or 12 different channels, is each video I kind of almost see like a lottery ticket. And I've got videos that I think, this was one of my biggest videos, the taxi. And I think this one's got over 500,000 views. And I think like with revenue, it's made about $2,000 in YouTube ad revenue. And this casting, I think, cost me
50p. So when you get something like that, it was worth it. But of course, in the last few years, it's only happened a couple of times, and I've had to kind of move on from thinking that I can make money from YouTube videos, because since the last couple of years have been very different. They went from being able to kind of cover my costs, etc., to not covering the costs, which was fine. That's when it turned from almost like a kind of see it like a business to just a hobby. And that had its advantages and disadvantages. I felt that, like I said, I've done, in those first couple of years, probably 300 videos, which was on average one every 2 days. So that included my weekends, that included birthdays and Christmas and all these other things. I think I can remember doing some videos and it would be, I was doing something and then doing a voiceover saying, this is actually Christmas Day right here. My family are inside watching a film, but I'm out in the workshop because I wanted to keep up with schedule. And that's what I'd done. Right. I made sure, or I wanted to keep up with a schedule every 2 days. 1 day off, 1 day video, 1 day off, 1 day video. Regardless of what day of the week it was, I wanted to get out 3 to 4 videos every single week, which obviously after a couple of years, it starts to burn out. I work 40 hours a week and I still, like I say, I'm married with children and I've got other things to look after as well. But as I say, I've had a bit of a break recently. We've had COVID twice, me and my wife and children. It's kind of gone round us twice. And I think one of those things is when you've kind of fallen out of it, it was almost like a routine. And I'm a routine kind of guy, habit kind of guy. And falling away from that habit or routine means, I just need to kind of find something to bring me back in. And in a way, I'm certainly hoping that today is going to do that. Yeah, I as well. I hope, and I know tons of your fans hope that this will kind of springboard you back into some videos that we've all enjoyed. We all miss there's 5 words, gentlemen, in every Matchbox Garage video, and it is foot-long hot dog jar. And we all miss hearing those words from you, Rob.
See, funny enough, I'm glad you brought up the.
I was going to say, Chuck, that obviously the foot-long hot dog jar is, I think, almost like one of a few little sayings that I kind of incorporated along the time, even down to like my wife. She kind of mimics and takes the mickey at me by saying, "Hi guys." Kind of in things like that. It's the way that she just kind of takes the mickey out of me there. But yeah, because at the same time, because I haven't done it for a little while, I'm almost a bit rusty with some of my like standard sayings, like, "Hi guys, welcome back for another Matchbox Garage video. I'm Rob, and today I'll be attempting to take this on a 1975 full pickup from shabby to shiny." And that would always be one thing I would kind of try and add in there. Or drill the post, remove the flange, tap the hole, remembering to lubricate your piece. You don't want to snap it. That was always another thing as well. Just to because if people would then come to me and say, if I'm using the foot-long hot dog jar, and if I don't give it a swishy swish, then someone will comment, "Rob, you didn't do the swishy swish." And so there's so many times of these things that I think, right, I've got to add this in. Otherwise, someone will kind of mention that I didn't do it. But sometimes you may do it just to kind of get a reaction as well.
It's serendipitous that you brought up the Impala taxi. It was kind of that was a watershed video for me, because I remember I've watched a lot of your videos, but that one is the one that I always like think back on as like the go-to Rob video, just because that was such a dramatic restoration. So I imagine it was a pretty harrowing process. So can you tell us a little bit about that build in particular?
Yeah, I mean that one, if I just bring up my phone, I don't know if you can see that, but on my phone, the standard front page to my channel is this car. And if you can see, it was in a real bad shape. But yeah, it's seen 583,000 times, which is pretty good. But yeah, it was, if I remember rightly, the thing that keeps this car together is the thickness of the paint, which I remember was some of the comments. To be honest, I used everything in my arsenal, I guess, in order to put this thing together. The biggest thing was, if I remember rightly, I was missing some like A-pillar parts. So on here, kind of using, I think, different places in the world call them different things, but I think they're like cotter pins. I don't know if you call them cotter pins.
That's right. We do.
Yeah. Cotter pins. Yeah. Cotter pins or, yeah. They're called other things as well. But basically I've got this just this probably come out around about the same time that this casting did. So yeah, Terry's high grade cotter pins, and that's actually been used many times for quite a few castings. But yeah, ultimately, bearing in mind this was quite a few years ago now. Yeah, so I'm just going to open it up to see if it tells me when. It just says 2 years. So, but yeah, I actually did start that video earlier on just to remind me on a couple of the things I used to say. But yeah, I think it probably took me 3 days rather than the usual 2. And I say 2 days. It's a day for me is about 3 hours. So I would normally spend day 1, 3 hours. And in that 3 hours, it would be taking a picture of the car, putting it on the twirly thing, the rotisserie, and then talking about the car, kind of going over it, if there's any opening doors or what the problems are, really showing the problems with this particular casting anyway. And then start to take it apart, drilling it out, etc. And then start to go through the dipping process of using the caustic soda. So that would be kind of day 1. And then depending how it goes, I would paint it as well. Day 2 would be almost just the reassemble, adding decals, the taxi in this instance, and then going through the edit process.
Connections.
I use Windows Movie Maker. I think in a way that basically this casting is just held together by paint, and obviously we went through the cotter pins and putting it together, and ultimately a little bit of heat, a little bit of persuasion, and the thing is very fragile. It's not a toy now to be played with. To put it that way, my children would probably break it in all of 10 seconds. So I actually try and keep that one away. That actually, and this one here is another one that's kind of held together by the thickness of the paint. Another one that's been used with cotter pins and was finally put together, and it was in a similar state. Perhaps not as bad as the other one, but certainly close to it. One thing that was a bit heartbreaking happened about a year ago. I had about probably 30 castings that I restored, and I had them all out on a tray up in what I used to call the up, which was in my house, the loft or the attic, which is where I used to have or house Matchbox Garage. And some friends come over that had little children, and they decided that they would pour all the castings onto the floor and just smash them up. That was a bit heartbreaking, that one. And actually, after putting in all that time and effort into them, and part of me just thinks, well, that is what they're there for, right? And I certainly didn't get mad or anything like that. I just kind of picked them up and put them to the side. And those were ones I couldn't really give away because they just needed to be fully restored again. But it is what it is. After kind of about 300 castings, I find that some of the castings I've given away, some of them I have sold to help me put the money together to buy new things for it. I sold a load of castings and bought, if you can see, like the Dremel, which was quite expensive, but helped me with the videos. And it was, even though I've gone through probably 5 rotary tools on Matchbox Garage, the initial one, which was junk, and then I bought a couple of small ones, which were really good. Lee Time Rider used to use the same. And then I had one of the viewers sending one, which I always called Ella's tool, which I still have. And a lot of these things that it costs a lot of money to set it up. I would say that just to set up my channel, I probably spent £1,000. So I don't know what that's in today's rate of exchange, $1,300 just to get the equipment to set it up.
Yeah,
there are quite a lot of things that are required, but you could set up a channel with probably £10. You just go down to the local pound shop like yourselves, like a dollar store, and pick up some paint and pick up some stripper and kind of change the color of a car. But obviously, if you want to get more involved, then you just need so much more. You can kind of see almost like the shelf behind me. That's just one of several shelves and several places where I have different things for different things. And I use them all. And it's surprising actually what you can really use.
So Rob, what is the difference between, for you, why Matchbox over Hot Wheels? And everybody's got their own reasoning, of course, but what is your main reason between the two big brands in Mattel?
I would say I didn't pick Matchbox. I kind of see it that Matchbox picked me because before I started my channel, I knew what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to get into diecast restoration. So I didn't go out and decide on a name straight away. I didn't go out because on my very first video, I wasn't called. I can't remember, but I don't think my name was Matchbox Garage. It was still in the previous name, which was, I can't even remember what it was called now, something Legacy. And when I put that video out, I was still learning. So I just went out and bought as many diecast cars as I could. So I went to the local boot sales, or I think you call it like flea markets, and to the local charity shops.
Yeah.
And I collected probably, I can't really remember, but I probably had to start with maybe 100 to 200 castings. And I was restoring the first few. And I think it was only until I had probably, because I remember lining them up on top of my desk and thinking, oh, blimey, I've only restored so far Matchbox cars. And that wasn't any kind of intention. It was, they just so happened to be all Matchbox. And so I looked through my kind of collection of diecast and realized that 90% of what I had was Matchbox. So with that, I just thought, well, I guess I'll be Matchbox. I see obviously the Hot Wheels channels and I see like Marty's channel. And after that, I just thought, well, maybe I'll just be Matchbox. Now, in the UK, I don't pronounce garage like garage. I pronounce it garage. And that was one of the things that actually my, I guess, UK viewers, but also my friends and family kind of picked up on, because really I should pronounce it Matchbox Garage. But it just didn't seem to have the right sound, so I actually used, I guess, the American pronunciation of garage. And it just seemed to fit it that much better. But yeah, that was really the only reason why Matchbox just picked me.
Enough, really.
It's a good
Years
reasoning.
about probably 2 years into it, my dad actually said to me, I don't know whether I've told you this, but I used to work for Matchbox in the Les factory. And this was about after 2 years of dealing with it, that he kind of dropped that on me, which he wasn't working there for very long. He used to work and he went from like Les, went on to Ford, but I can't believe that it took him about 2 years just to let me know that little nugget of information.
That's funny. I guess my other thing for you is just, I think for all of us, it's just encouragement to get back into it, and that there's absolutely nothing wrong with taking a break from it all, and videos and even the hobby, because it's one of the amazing things. You can just stop for a while and you can just get back into it whenever you want. So I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that'll really enjoy having you back and posting more videos, but you can always take a break again in the future, especially when you have family to look after and everything.
Yeah. And that's, I think, the good thing about this. Even though there were channels before me, there seemed to be lots of channels that popped up during the time that I was really heavy into putting out videos every 2 days. And I'm sure there's been channels in the last probably 6 months where I haven't been active that have taken it on. I've found that to begin with, I was subscribed to every single diecast creator, and because I wanted to see how they did it and what they were doing, not necessarily in a kind of trend, but I just wanted to learn everything that I could about our hobby. Ultimately, if somebody's using a different method for paint stripping or a different method for clear coat, then I wanted to learn about it, because I wanted to try and be the best that I could be. And actually, one of the things that has somewhat push me away is the likes of, say, Jakarta Diecast, because I could never kind of handle or produce the level of kind of creation that he puts out. And sometimes I'll watch that and I think, well, I can only be 1% of this guy. What's the point of me putting out my little kind of stripping the paint, repainting it, and then there you go, it's done. It's 1% of what these guys are doing. Do people really need to see my channel anymore? But yeah, but still, thousands of people were watching every video. And then sometimes I would kind of have to remind myself that
Definitely do.
some people still take joy from just the simple things. I try and always put my, I guess, personality through on it. There's a bit of a, not comedy, but, you know, kind of, if people can relax, but also have a bit of fun during the video, then great. Oh, they look like some castings I've done in the before there, David. Well, there are people that are going to enjoy your just everyday vehicles. And here's a few fans watching the show now that get to see some actual Matchbox Garage customs that Rob sent me. And you don't have to have scissor doors. You don't have to have Lamborghini doors. There's always space for a wonderful recreation. So thank you for those, Rob. Yeah, well, you're very welcome. I think
It's funny that you say that, because as a customizer who have only done like one real restoration, I think sometimes it's funny to watch videos like yours and go, oh, well, he's doing so much better and he's doing these amazing, perfectly correct restorations. Why am I even trying to compete with this when clearly like people really enjoy seeing the restoration? So, but I think there's room for both. I think there's plenty of audience for both customizers who do the wild stuff. And I'm kind of in the middle. Like I do special effects paint and weathering, but Jakarta does like the really high end crazy stuff. And then got folks like you and Marty and Danny who do like these really nice restorations and get these really perfect replicas of what they box. Or
Paul,
what's his name from Poland? Oh, I know his name, Paul over there. That does those beautiful and recreates the box and everything. So I think the audience is there for both. It's just, for me, it's about not focusing on the other creators. It's doing what makes you happy and knowing that the audience will find you that vibes with what you're doing. And like you said, it's a hobby. I think we all dream of turning this into a full-time job. I'm actually literally at a conference right now that's all about people who want to make a career as a creator. And so I just was speaking with a YouTube coach. That's his job, is to coach people on how to do YouTube full time. But I think that it's really like that kind of thing does lead to burnout and does lead to the losing focus. But as somebody who's been doing this for a while, do you have any advice for someone who is interested in customizing or restorations and wants to do a YouTube channel, but really doesn't know where to start? Like, what one piece of advice would you give them as someone who's done this for a while?
I would say that my piece of advice for anyone that wishes to give this a try is just to do it, which is perhaps easier said than done. But I would say, unless you are intending to recreate high-end restorations or customizations, then you don't need to worry about 100 pieces of equipment that I may have. I would just start simple, just by people. I would try almost to not buy anything, just use the equipment that you have. And I think most people have probably got a drill and some drill bits to remove the flange or the rivets on the bottom of a casting. Most people have got in their shed, or their parents, or they might have had it from another project from years ago, some type of paint remover. And then and most people I would think have got a little bit of sandpaper to clean up a casting. And if you've got two castings, I know the guys do it with the Hot Wheels. They may take it apart because they prefer one set of wheels on one casting compared to a different set of wheels on another casting, and then just switch them over. I would think that would be a great start. He's getting two Hot Wheels castings, where you think, I like this car, I like the wheels, but I prefer those wheels on this one. I think that would be a real basic kind of beginner where to start. And then, yeah, if you can remove some of that paint, you can buy cheap paint and paint it up and put it together. You've got a tiny little paintbrush to put in some details and really see how, to some people, I'm sure easy it can be, but to others, actually how difficult it can be. When obviously we take a picture of a casting from something that's this kind of size, which compared to me is tiny, but if someone wants to see the tiny little kind of details in there, which you may have to use a little brush or I use a lot of to paint in my little details, like a toothpick, or I don't know what you guys would call it. I don't think you call it a toothpick, so I can't see any, but like a little stick and like cocktail stick, and use that instead of a paintbrush. But I would just start real basic, get it done, see how you get on with the first one, watch as many videos from your favorite kind of diecast creators. And yeah, the next stage, that's the biggest thing. It's wanting to create a YouTube channel or wanting to create a video. That's when things get a little bit more difficult. Fair enough. Well said.
I think that's great advice. I mean, it's my point of view is to start with something small like that and swap some wheels, understand how the car comes apart, understand how it goes together. And then once you strip it, clean it down, and then try to paint it, you have a greater appreciation of some of those other channels, like Rob's channel, Jakarta, like all these Danny's Diecast Disasters. You have a greater appreciation for what they're doing, and then you can slowly, it's going to take you some time, years, to learn how to do it really well. It's not simple, but it's just baby steps. So I think that's great advice on people that are just starting out.
I want to thank you so much for coming on. This has been a delight to talk to you and get to know you a little bit better. And we will definitely plan to have you on again. Again, folks can find you on Matchbox Garage on YouTube. Is there anywhere else that you want people to find you, follow you, anything that you want to tell folks before we wrap up?
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for coming, Rob. It's been such a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you for coming on, Rob. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
We all big fans of Matchbox Garage, and as I'm sure everybody who is watching this video also is. So we're excited to hear you're going to be coming back on and making more videos, and we will be there for them when they arrive. Well, that was incredible. Again, thank you so much to Rob for fighting with us through technical difficulties and internet troubles. Had a great time talking with him. He is a huge influence on me as a customizer, and I think anyone who enjoys diecast as a hobby.
I really loved that interview. And I can tell that we talked about the kids getting in and crushing all the cars that he's done.
Right.
That's a pretty patient guy, forgiving. It's kind of it was refreshing to hear that he didn't freak out when that. It was a really good. I mean, very patient. To be restoring these cars takes an insane amount of patience and weathering too, as Chuck does. So it was a pleasure throughout the little bit of technical difficulties that we had with this, but it was a real pleasure talking to him.
Rob was really an important person to bring me back to the hobby. His videos were enormous, and they opened up the idea that I could actually interact with people on YouTube and start trading and sending boxes. So loved having you here, Rob. Viewers, I'm so glad you got to meet the man behind the voice that a lot of you have come to really enjoy hearing. Yeah, just a blast for me. I don't have much to add. I think you could see it in my face during the interview. I was having a ball. Hope you guys did too.
Yeah, it was an absolute delight, Rob. Are looking so forward to having you back on again, and hopefully the connection gods will smile a little more kindly on us. And we want to thank you for smiling kindly on us and making it to the end of this episode. We want to thank all our patrons who support the show and make it possible for me to be able to afford all of the crazy subscriptions that it takes to keep this show on the air. But thank you so much for that. And thank you for listening, liking, sharing, subscribing, telling your friends about the show. That is a huge way for us to grow. We were ranked 157th in U.S. hobby and leisure podcasts for like one day, and then we disappeared off the charts again. So things are happening, and we want to thank you all for making that happen. Again, if you leave a review on Apple Podcasts, we will add 2 cars to the Hot Wheels for Hope pile, and we thank you so much for doing that. It is a way for you to help support us for free and help 2 kids get a smile on their face that they might not otherwise not be able to have. So again, thank you so much to you for watching, listening, wherever you are. Thank you for being here. We are looking so forward to having you on the next video. So until next time, stay fresh, cheese bags.